Hi guys, my name is Addison Miller, and today I will be talking about Chapter 7 called Groups and Teams out of the Organizational Behavioral book, Managing People and Organizations. Um, I apologize for any time throughout this video chat explaining the presentations because I used to be a severe stutterer and I'm slowly figuring out how to improve myself when speaking to others, even though I'm not really a public speaker. So I apologize in advance. Anyway, the first part of this chapter, of chapter 7, talks about the different types of work groups. And the first one is called the command work group, and a permanent group with functional reporting relationships and is usually included in charts. So I guess kind of like graph charts is what they would use in the command groups. The second one is called the affinity groups, and it's groups of individuals who meet on a regular basis to share info and solve problems. So kind of like a study group that you would have at school, or something through your job to get a project done on time, and that you have all the materials need to do, so you can share the info with people, and being able to solve problems and issues that you have along the way. Next slide. There are many different types of teams. They are functional teams, cross-functionally teams, problem solving, venture teams, virtual teams, and global teams. So there are 6. The functional teams are a lot of members that come from the same department or functional area. And then cross-functionally is almost the opposite of that, and that is the members that come from different departments or functional areas. Problem solving teams is teams that is kind of in the name, but it's teams created to solve problems and make improvements in just whatever job they are doing with their work or their schooling that they are in. The self-directed, the venture teams is teams that operate semi-anonymously to create and develop new products, process, or business. The virtual teams is teams of geographically or organizationally dispersed co-workers who communicate using telecommunications and information technologies. And then global teams is face-to-face or virtual teams whose members are from a different country. So it could be like just kind of as it said in the description, the diverse teams of people across the country. So like people from China or people from Africa and America and London, stuff like that. Like those people can get together to form different types of teams. Next slide. There are different types of group performance factors that were mentioned in Chapter 7, and they are group composition, group size, group norms, group cohesiveness, and informal leadership. Group composition is kind of like of how many people are composed in a certain group. And I guess that kind of relates with the size of the group, of like how many people are involved in it. The group norms, for those of you who don't know what norms are, which I think a lot of people do, but a norm is a standard against the appropriateness of a behavior that is judged. And then group cohesiveness is the extent to which a group is committed to staying together. So like those that don't move on to other people, they stay together. And then informal leadership is the last one. Informal leadership is a person who engages in leadership activities, but those whose right to do so has been formally recognized by the organization of the group. Next slide. There are 4 different stages and groups of team development that were listed in Chapter 7. The first type was the mutual acceptance, and that is sharing the information and getting to know the other person, also known as the forming stage. Communication and decision making is to discuss feelings more openly and agree on roles in groups, and that is called the storming stage. The third one is the motivation and productivity, and that is to accomplish certain tasks, and that is called the norming state, from the same definition that I read earlier about the norm. That is what it applies here. And then control and organization, the performing stage, is how well your group performs to do a single task or different types of tasks, and how much control and organization you have to prepare. Next is the implement process. Next is the implementation process. 5 phases of implementing teams are the startup, the reality and unrest, the leader-centered teams, the tightly formed teams, and the self-managing teams. And what those are, as it talks about in let me get my book. In 271, the startup team is basically try to get people initiated and become more aware of like what the job is to do. And all this is on page, if you wanted to follow along, 271, 272, and 273. But phase 2 is the reality and unrest. And what that is basically saying is that it's your job to take the responsibility in being able to move everything in the process. And then the third one is leader-centered teams. Leader-centered teams is kind of, I guess, already what it says in the thing, but what that has to do is that it is formed around a person or a group of people who are wanted to be leaders of a single group that take control and take charge of the actions. And then self-managing teams, tightly formed teams, and then the last one is self-managing teams. Next slide. There are different types of benefits in team organization, and they are enhanced performance, reducing costs, employee benefits, and organizational enhancements. Next slide. Promoting effective performance. There are 3 roles to top managing support. The first one is top management must decide a team based on sound performance related reasons, which I kind of didn't understand the first time what it was saying when I was reading, but the second time around, I think what it's saying is that, like, let's see. So yeah, as I'm going back and rereading what I had, the top managing must decide on a team-based organization for sound performance-related reasons. The second one is instrumental in communicating reasons to change the rest of the organization. The third one has to support the change and effort during difficult periods. And plus, as well as promoting effective performance, you have to understand time frames, like having stuff in on time, which is one thing I didn't do for this project, which I apologize, because I thought it was due Sunday. But anyway, understanding time frames is the way to perfectly have effective performance in your job or schooling. Some other ways to promote effective performance is the way that you change organizational rewards, and there are 3 types of reward systems that are common in team environment. The first one is skill-based pay, and that is when you acquire a certain set of skills, core skills needed for a particular team. Not like Liam Neeson, but you know what I'm getting at. The second one is gain-sharing systems, and that is when you reward all team members based on the performance of the organization or division or plant. Team bonus is similar to the gain-sharing systems, but except of the unit performance, it is paying the team rather than the organization. So like teams that are in charge of a certain task get paid based on the team bonus plan, and the gain sharing is the whole system, like the whole company gets paid for that. The next slide is teamwork competencies, and there are 5 of them. The first one is conflict resolution abilities, collaborative problem solving abilities, communication abilities, goal setting and self-management abilities, planning and task coordinating abilities. And if you do those, then if you do those 5, then you are able to achieve the best teamwork competencies you can. And then the next slide, the 5 categories and important leadership skills. There are basically 5 ways to do that, and on the slides, if you're reading along, the first one is communicating effectively and matchmaking technology to the situation. The second is building communities across a team that is based on trust. Establishing a clear, motivating, shared vision, team purpose, and expectations is the third one. And that one was a little wordy, but to shorten it, it's basically saying for the people that have the same purpose on how to get the job done is the way to import certain leadership skills. For one, to take charge. And the fourth one is leading by example and focusing on the measurable results. And number 5 is coordinating and collaborating organizational boundaries. Next slide. The next part talked about diversity and multicultural teams. Let me reference the book here, but the first one was called Direct versus Indirect Communication. And what that is saying, and what that is talking about is that you have to create barriers for effective teamwork by reducing information sharing, creating personal conflict, or doing a bit of both. It's because direct is when you're directly like with a group talking with them, and indirect is when you're away from the party, like doing it yourself. The second one is differing attitudes towards hierarchy and authority. And then the last one is conflicting decision-making norms. And then the last one is my discussion board question that I have for you guys to answer. And the question is to think about an effective team that you've been on and what made it effective. Now think about the Now think about an underperforming team you've been on and what made it underperform. So basically, all this question that I ask of you is, how have you been effective in your group, either for a work project or something for school? And then how have you underperformed? Like, what stuff have you done wrong or not as well as you thought it would be, and why? And then the last one is the sources. So I hope you guys enjoyed this presentation of Chapter 7, Groups and Teams. And again, I apologize for the stuttering. I'm still trying to work on it, and the late postings of this assignment because I don't know what I was thinking about. It was due Sunday. But anyway, hope you guys have a great night, and I look forward to hearing from you all. Thanks.